Hey guys, Victor here, coming at you with another deck profile, and for today's video we're going to be doing an updated hero list, and this is of course going to be post Supreme Darkness, which means that we are going to be able to take advantage of all the new evil hero cards that were just released. However, this is going to be one of those hero piles that basically incorporates all the good hero cards into one deck. It's not going to be a pure evil hero deck. If you're expecting one of those, just feel free to click off because it's not going to be what you're going to be finding here, alright? So, with that in mind, let's jump straight into it. As always, we're going to be starting off with the monster lineup first, and we're of course going to be playing 2 Elemental Hero Stratos. You don't really need 3 in this specific version just because we have so many ways to have access to our hero cards, thanks to cards like Evil Assault, basically opening up the deck and allowing us to get access to Dead End Prison, which will in turn almost always send either a Malicious or a Shadow Mist, and then allow us to freely search out everything else. So, just the release of that card alone makes it so that even though Stratos is still obviously a good card, the deck no longer pretty much revolves around it being able to resolve. Then for the other heroes, you just play a bunch of 1-ofs. So we play the 1 Elemental Hero Shadow Mist and the 1 Elemental Hero Neos. And that's basically all you're going to see for most standard hero lists when it involves the elemental heroes themselves. But I took it one step further, and I'm still opting to play the 1 Elemental Hero Liquid Soldier. I know everyone's basically cut it at this point, but I still feel like it's... I just really enjoyed the opportunity that it allows you to thin out through your deck a little bit more, draw 2 cards, discard a brick in your hand and send it to the graveyard or whatever. And I still constantly find myself needing some kind of extra attribute when it comes to the elemental heroes, because there are a lot of situations where you want to go straight to the Flame Wingman, right? But because it requires exclusively elemental heroes, you do find yourself in a sticky situations when you only play these 4. So adding the Liquid Soldier for the consistency and the extra attribute or name does matter a lot. And then for the final elemental hero, we're still going to be rocking the 1 Elemental Hero Blazeman. As long as Dimension Shifter exists in some way, shape, or form, you will not make me stop playing this card. I don't care. This is quite literally one of the only cards that allows you to consistently play through Shifter at least somewhat, and just for that reason alone, you're pretty much always going to see me included in these deck profiles. And then with that, that's the elemental heroes, and then we can get to the vision heroes. We're going to be playing 3 Vision Hero Ferris. It discards heroes to special summon itself, and then when it's specialed or normaled, you're able to set a level 4 or lower vision hero from your deck into your spell and trap card zone. And what you're going to be setting is going to be the 1 vision hero increase. I'm still torn between wanting to play 1 and 2 of these, but I think for now, especially with the new evil hero cards, you don't even really rely on Ferris all that much. Sure, it's a nice play extender / starter, but we have plenty of ways, and in a lot of situations I don't even find myself going for this just because we already have so much gas from the other stuff. And then because we only play 1 vision hero increase, this is probably going to be the first controversial thing that I've done besides the Blazeman and the Liquid Soldier. I'm only playing 1 vision hero Vion. So it doesn't really make much sense to me to play more than 1 Vion when I'm only playing the 1 increase, especially because if you end up drawing the 1 increase, the Vions in your deck are already pointless, right? And we do have another suitable substitute in the form of Elemental Hero Blazeman, which essentially serves the same function. However, like I said earlier, we played the Blazeman because it doesn't auto-lose to Dimension Shifter, but Vision Hero Vion does, as you're not going to be able to send anything, and you're not even going to be able to search out Polymerization because you don't have any heroes in your graveyard. So, yeah, I think 3-1-1 is honestly perfectly fine for this ratio. Let me know why I'm wrong down below. I'm sure you guys will. But for all intents and purposes, I think the ratios work out perfectly fine. And then for the Destiny Hero lineup, really standard, really straightforward. 3 Destiny Hero Malicious with the 1 Destiny Hero Denier, which is basically Malicious copy number 4 and 5. And then the 1 Destiny Hero Plasma, because Plasma is still pretty strong on most end boards, especially when you pair it with the Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer. And then that's it for the D heroes. And then for the evil heroes, we're just playing 3 cards for this specific engine when it comes to the monsters. So we're doing 2 Evil Hero Adusted Gold, and then just the 1 Evil Hero Dead End Prison. So Dead End Prison's pretty solid, whether you're normal summoning it or whatever, because it sends any hero monster from your deck to the graveyard for cost. So you're able to send Shadow Mist, Malicious, Denier, Liquid Soldier, whatever. And then for the rest of this turn, this card essentially becomes King of the Swamp, and that means that it basically becomes any hero's name, right? So it's pretty important for some of the evil hero monsters in the extra deck that require specific monsters to be able to be summoned, such as the new Flame Wingman Retrain or whatever. And then even then, if you don't want to go for that, this card can also be treated as like Elemental Hero Neos. So if you decide to go like first or second or whatever, just having this card, sending another card, and then becoming or potentially becoming Neos allows you to break your opponent's boards a little bit more easily. But typically, you're just using this to be able to send and like foolish a specific hero monster so that you can continue to combo off with your plays. And then as for like a Dusted Gold, I'm currently playing 2, but I feel like 2 is honestly too many. I definitely, because like you're not struggling for access to this card, right? You have multiple ways to search it out in the form of like Stratos or Cross Crusader that just basically guarantee the access to it, and even like Shadow Mist to like a lesser extent. So I feel like I'd be much better off just playing 3 Evil Assault, which, spoiler, I'm only playing 2 currently, but I think 3-1 is honestly better in the long run, just because Evil Assault will be able to, you know, special summon out your Dead End Prison, and get rid of cards such as like Malicious and Denier that you don't really want in your hand in most cases. Not to mention, because this is more like a enhancement, it's not like the main focus, you don't even really need to resolve this more than once. After Evil Hero Dusted Gold resolve 1 time, the game honestly should be pretty much over at that point. And then like in a lot of situations too, you don't even really want to open this over the Evil Assault. You'd much rather use this or save this to search out like your Dark Contact or your Darkness Supremacy, which we are going to be playing, which also, again, spoilers. But I guess we'll get more into that when we actually get into that. But yeah, 2-1, perfectly fine, but I'm definitely leaning more towards just playing the 1 a Dusted Gold and then just calling it a day. And then with that, that's the hero lineup, but we do play a couple of hand traps just to help round out the deck a little bit more. And by round out the deck, we're just going to be playing 3 Ash Blossom and Joy Spring, who is literally only in there to play against Molcharmy, Perulia, Fuelos. I don't think the new one, Meows, matters against this deck, but for the first 2, you definitely need at least the Ash Blossom to just be able to play the game. And I've basically geared this deck towards going first, so that's why you don't really see me play cards like Droll and Lockbird or anything like that. You basically just want to accomplish the game plan that the hero deck has set out for you, which is to swarm the field with as many bodies as possible. And then for games 2 and 3, once you know what you're going to be playing against, you can side more appropriately and then include cards that may be a little bit more beneficial, like Droll and Lockbird or Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit or whatever. But for all intents and purposes, 3 Ash Blossom, it's literally just there to stop the Molcharmies from absolutely demolishing us. And with that, that's the monster lineup, and now we can finally move on to the spell and trap portion. Now that we're on the spell and trap portion of the video, we're going to be starting off with the best spell in the entire deck, being 3 A Hero Lives. You just pay half your life points and then you special summon any elemental hero monster, so you basically get to have access to your entire deck right then and there. And by any elemental hero, I mean level 4 or lower, right? You can't just activate this and then bring out Neos, because you just can't. But even if you're summoning out like Elemental Hero Stratos to search out something like Neos, which you probably shouldn't do in most situations because we do play Inferno Devicer in the extra deck, or summoning out Shadow Mist to search out Mass Change, or you could even justify summoning out cards like Elemental Hero Blazeman at times just to guarantee that you have the polymerization before you get hit by something like a Draw a Lockbird, as those situations do come up pretty frequently. So yeah, you just basically always want to open up with one of these. And even if it gets like stopped by like a hand trap, by such as your opponent's opposing Ash Blossom, it's perfectly fine, just because while this does help the deck out a lot, you don't really rely on it to get your play started, right? It's more, honestly, it's definitely going to be like the ultimate hand trap bait, because if it gets hit, you don't really care, but if it goes off, you've basically just won the game right then and there. So yeah, 3 Hero Lives, must play. And then for the only other 3 of spell in the deck, we're playing 3 Fusion Destinies. So this one basically just opens up the bridge and gives you access to your entire Dark Engine for the most part. And on its own, you know, it can already end on like Plasma DPE, which is an incredibly strong board in its own right, unless your opponent Nibiru's you, which they probably will at some point. But yeah, just the sheer advantage that you can generate off the Fusion Destiny is just unmatched. However, like I always say with these types of profiles, you never really want to start with the Fusion Destiny. You pretty much want to hold it as long as possible, just because you don't want to limit yourself, especially because so many of the new hero fusions are not dark monsters, right? The Flame Wingman, most of the evil hero stuff, they're all different attributes, so you will be cutting yourself off the moment you start this. So as a result, like I said, save it for the end or like when you're most desperate. Then for the other spells, the only 2 of we're playing is Evil Assault, but like I said earlier, this is definitely one of those cards that I definitely feel I should be playing at 3, but for now, 2 is perfectly fine. You basically just activate it, you get to discard a card, and then you get to special summon or add to your hand any evil hero in your deck, which would either just be like the Dead in Prison or in a Dust and Gold, but you're basically never searching out a Dust and Gold with this unless you've already opened the Dead in Prison. But even so, it's not like it's a bad play, right? You just go activate Evil Assault, add a Dust and Gold, activate a Dust and Gold, and then you can add like Darkness Supremacy, and you're already gonna have like at least one guaranteed negate for something, which, you know, it's nothing to laugh about. Like, it's a free card that just gives you at least some kind of protection against your opponent. But I definitely feel like I should be playing 3 of this. And as for the other effect, I don't play Dark Fusion. I just don't feel like it's all that needed. But if you did, you can banish this card to add Dark Fusion from your graveyard to your hand. You just can't use it the turn that this card is sent to the graveyard. But yeah, 2 Evil Assault, and then that's it for the 2-ofs. And then we just play a bunch of 1-of spells. We're playing the 1 Triple Tactics Thrust along with the 1 Triple Tactics Talent. These are still just really good, strong cards. And the reason why I opted to go for like 1 of each copy though is that you can basically get the best of both worlds, whether you're going first or second. And what I mean by that is, so if you're going second, right, Thrust basically just gets you whatever you want. You can add a Hero Lives, you can add Fusion Destiny, you could add Talents, whatever. But if you go first and you get hit by like a hand trip such as like Ash Blossom, or even like a Bestial, right, which are basically in every single deck at the moment, you're gonna get like a lot of value no matter what. But even if you don't get hit by like a Bestial or whatever, like I said, if you get hit by Ash Blossom or a Veiler or Ghost Ogre or whatever, you can still set cards such as your Dark Supremacy or your favorite contact just to be able to continue to play during your opponent's turns. So yeah, I just wanted the variety that these cards offered you, just because I felt like they were just too good not to at least include 1 of each. Then for the other ones, the 1 of Polymerization, the 1 of Miracle Fusion. I am playing the 1 of Dark Contact. I don't really know how to feel about the extra decks for this stuff, just because while they're not like terrible, I don't feel like they're that great either. They're very much like an average engine to be used with, if I'm being honest. But I still just wanted to try it out because this is going to be like the first version of this deck post Supreme Darkness. So I wanted to try out all the cards that I thought were at least serviceable, and this one's okay, right? As it's able to shuffle back cards in order to special summon an evil hero from your extra deck. And I think one of my favorite things to do with this card is actually, because I only played like the 1 Wonder Driver, I enjoy activating Dark Contact and then just being able to recycle that card for like the next turn. Now, obviously, if you play 2 Wonder Driver, this doesn't really matter, but, you know, I just figured I might as well just share it. And then for the other spells, we're playing the 1 Reinforcement of the Army, the 1 Mass Change, and then the 1 Called by the Grave. Really straightforward, really simple stuff, nothing too crazier out there, and that's it for the spells. And then for the traps, we're playing the 1 Favorite Contact, which allows us to special summon a fusion monster during the opponent's turn, or our turn if we decide not to flip it during their turn, and then the 1 Dark Supremacy. So this card, obviously it's horrible if you're going second, but I've basically made this deck so that we're always going to go first, and then once you know what you're playing against, you can set appropriately, you know. And this is obviously like an easy side out card because like I said, it's horrible going second, but I really don't feel like it's all that great. We already had a card that was a counter trap that was searchable that could negate spells and traps, which means that it couldn't be responded to because it was a counter trap in the form of Power of the Elements. But I still decided just to try out the 1 Dark Supremacy, see if I like it or not. And then as for like its graveyard effect, it is pretty solid because you're just able to banish it and then shuffle back 5 hero monsters, which does come up pretty frequently if you're able to go to like turns 2 and 3, which this format is slow enough to the point where I feel like you can do it somewhat consistently, although the impact of this card isn't really felt all that much. But even so, we got to try out the new cards, even if they're not that great. So as a result, we're just going to be trying the 1 Dark Supremacy in the main deck. And with that, that's the main deck, 40 cards like always. Now we can finally move on to the extra deck. Now, as far as the extra deck is concerned, I did elect to basically just play nothing but heroes this time, just because cards like Evil Assault do also lock you out, special summoning non-heroes for the whole turn. So I just figured it wasn't really worth the hassle this time. But even so, we're going to be starting off with the Link monsters first, and we're going to be playing 1 extra hero Inferno Devicer, literally just here to search out Elemental Hero Neos. We have the 1 extra hero Wonder Driver, which resets all your fusion spells. However, this card does not set cards like Dark Contact because it's just not one of the requirements, right? So you have to be like slightly aware that that's why I don't really enjoy relying too heavily on the evil heroes. If you were playing like Dark Fusion, for example, which you could, then I guess this would have like a little bit more value when it comes to meshing with that engine, but it just feels so unnecessary. And even so, like being able to set Miracle Fusion, Mass Change, Polymerization, Fusion Destiny is already more than enough. So yeah, you don't really need to rely on the evil heroes. I guess like the best way to put it is that you shouldn't be focusing on the evil heroes as like a main part of the engine. They should just be there to enhance the already existing cards, in order to get like the max value. Unless you're playing like a pure evil hero deck, then yeah. But even so, like one Wonder Driver is still phenomenal. It's very easy to recycle this card, so I never really feel the need to have more than one, but sometimes you do. But not this time. And then for the other links, 2 extra hero Cross Crusader. It brings back your Destiny Hero monsters, and then you contribute a Destiny Hero monster to search out any hero monster from your deck. So you can get Stratos if you have it normal summoned. You can get Liquid Soldier just to draw 2. You can get a Destiny Gold if you just want to have access to your Evil Hero engine. This card basically just bridges every single version of hero together and allows it to be as cohesive as possible. And then that's it for the links. We don't play Dread Decimator because this deck already puts out like 3 billion damage, so it's just unnecessary in my honest opinion. Then for the fusions, we're only playing the one Mastero Darklaw. It's still good, provided you don't play against Malice. If you play against Malice, you're just giving them free pluses every single time. So that's why we don't really rely too heavily on Darklaw. However, we are citing the additional copies of Mass Change because there are a lot of matchups that still just completely crumble to this card. So, especially if you're playing like against a rogue deck or whatever that relies heavily on the graveyard, Darklaw is of course phenomenal in those matchups. But one in the main for like games 1 is perfectly fine. And then for the other hero fusions, for the elemental heroes, we're playing the one elemental hero Flame Wingman Infernal Rage to search out your favorite contact, and then if you use Neos to summon it, you can cheat out a level 7 or lower that can't be normal summoned or set. And what you're going to be summoning is elemental hero Sunrise, who on special summon searches out Miracle Fusion, which it's basically all it's good for. Obviously, if it stays on the field, if your opponent decides to declare an attack, or you declare an attack with something that isn't Sunrise, you get to pop a card, and then all your monsters get boosted by 200 attack for every different attribute you have. But this is basically just here to search out Miracle Fusion most of the time. We're still playing the one elemental hero Escuridao. This is literally always just in here for when we're forced to start with the Fusion Destiny line, as it's basically the only dark elemental hero that we can summon pretty easily, and just on that reasoning alone is enough to justify playing it in my deck. Then for the other heroes, we're playing the elemental hero Shining Neos Wingman, which is typically going to be summoning your opponent's turn just to blow up their field when they try and pass turn, but you can also just bring it out during your turn to try and break your opponent's board. But it is a pretty powerful card. And then for the final hero fusion, we're playing the one Wake Up Your Elemental Hero. It's fine. I mean, I don't really understand why people rely on it so heavily. I just feel like it's just not needed in most situations. And every time you do summon this out during turn 1, it feels like such a greed play, as what you're typically going to do, right, is you're going to summon the Wake Up Your Elemental Hero, which means you're burning your Miracle Fusion in most situations. And that typically means that you have to rely on playing like a second Wonder Driver or recycling it as soon as possible. But what they'll do is like they'll summon the Wake Up, and then during the end phase they'll pop it with their Phoenix Enforcer, and then that will allow them to typically like special summon like a Shadow Mister. If they're doing it during the main phase, that means they're trying to go for like a Stratos Plasma line, which like I said, just loses even harder to nib. So it just feels unnecessary in most situations, but it's still better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. And that's it for the hero fusions. When it comes to elemental heroes, for Destiny heroes, we're basically just playing one of each of the good ones. So we're playing the one Destiny hero Dangerous, which allows you to send any D hero plus like a dark monster, typically going to be like elemental hero Shadow Mist. And as always, this is going to be the one combo that guarantees you Darklaw if you really need it for that certain matchup. But it doesn't really come up too often, but it's still just nice to be there. Then we have one Destiny hero Dystopia. This is typically going to be like your time card, as on summon it's going to target a level 4 or lower D hero in your graveyard and then burn your opponent for its attack. But if you're playing a hero deck, you typically don't even go into time to begin with, so you're probably not going to be relying on that effect too often to win in time. But it is great for like as like a finisher play where you've attacked and you're just a little bit short, so you just fusion summon into Dystopia and then you burn your opponent for that last bit. And as for its other effect, it does pair really well with Elemental Hero Sunrise, as if its attack is currently different from its original attack, you can put it back down to 2800 and then pop a card on the field for free. So you know, just another pop that this deck honestly doesn't really need, but it's nice to have sometimes. And that's basically like the common theme with the hero deck, right? A lot of these cards don't really do anything, but it's still nice to have them just in case. Yeah, you know, Dystopia, perfectly fine. And then for the Destiny Hero monster that you actually do need, the one Destiny Hero Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer, it's just a 1-for-1 pop every single time. That's going to be able to bring itself back from the graveyard during the standby phase if it's destroyed. It also lowers your opponent's monster's attack for every hero monster in your graveyard by 200. So your opponent's basically going to be having a field of nothing but weenies, and it's that reasoning right there that allows this field of DPE plus plasma to just win games on its own, because there's going to be very little that your opponent can actually do to actually run over the cards. So yeah, Destroy Your Phoenix Enforcer, the grind game that this card gives you, just unmatched. And then for the evil hero monsters, we're playing one evil hero Inferno Wing Backfire. So this card's materials say Avion or Percentatrix plus one hero monster, but even though we don't play those, it's perfectly fine, because we do play the Dead End Prison, which can basically, like I said earlier, become King of the Swamp and then in turn allow you to fusion summon this card fairly easily. And what this card does, right, is on special summon, you can add a Dark Fusion or one card that mentions it from your deck or graveyard to your hand, except the fusion monsters, which doesn't matter. But this essentially allows you to have access to your all your evil hero spells and traps, right? So your supremacy, your dark supremacy, your dark contact, your evil assault, whatever. You can add them all from your hand or graveyard back to your hand, which it's typically going to be from your deck if we're being honest, because you don't really want these cards in your hand. But you know, it's still a pretty solid card, and surprisingly this one is made pretty frequently, at least through my like playtesting experience. But it's not needed to win the game, much like every other evil or every other hero fusion, I guess. But it's still a really cool combo piece that pretty much guarantees that you're going to be able to set up your dark supremacy to have some kind of negate against your opponent. And as for the other effect, if your hero monster destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you get to inflict 2100 damage to your opponent. I guess it's great if you're going second, but as I said earlier, this deck does not have trouble putting out damage. And I guess this is one of those cards that just reinforces that, because I don't know, it's weird. Like, these cards are fine, but like I don't feel like any single one of the evil hero monsters is honestly worth playing for the most part. But even so, we just wanted to include them, test them out, see if we can make them better, or if we even just enjoy playing them or not. And then as we progress, changes will be made, but this is probably the most usable of the ones, if I'm being honest, even though its effect is pretty lackluster. Then for the final evil hero monster, we're playing one evil hero Neoslord. So traditionally you'd be seeing people playing like Malicious Bane, just because it is a lot more generic, but I wanted to play the new cards, so that's why I'm playing Evil Hero Neoslord. But its effect is fine. On special summon, or when your opponent decides to send a monster for them, or when your opponent decides to send a monster to the grave, you're basically able to snatch steal once per turn and permanently take one of your opponent's monsters. But once again, it's just, while the support is nice overall, it's just not really needed, because the deck doesn't really struggle with the things that this deck is, or what these new cards are providing. So hopefully Konami gives us real support in the future that can actually allow the deck to like evolve and change somewhat significantly. But as it stands now, I mean, it's fine, I guess. But like I said, if you want to play Malicious Bane over this, by all means go for it. I just really wanted to try out the new cards and see if they're at least worth playing somewhat. And with that, that's the deck profile. I hope you guys enjoyed it, even though I did scuff a lot of the introductions for it. But yeah, I'll catch you guys next time, all right? And if you enjoyed the video, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe. And like I said, I'll catch you guys next time. All right, bye.